everyone, welcome to today's video. Thanks for joining me and spending some of your day here with me today. We're doing a full face of new products. The majority of it is drugstore. They're coming out left and right with new products. I have some more products on the way, some orders for new things, and I cannot wait to share them with you. So I'm gonna break them up into several videos. So I'm gonna do a handful of new drugstore launches in this video, paired with a few more higher end products. Some that are actually new that just launched and some that I've had that I hadn't had a chance to try that I've talked about or shown you in a video that I just wanted to try. And it's really very minimal. I think it's maybe 3-4 products that are higher end, but everything else, the majority of it, like I said, is drugstore. So I hope that you will find this video helpful, and let's go ahead and get started. For the review of this new product from L'Oreal, I'm going to treat it just like I do with any other foundation product that I'm testing out. I'm going to pair that with a primer that I use very often to blur and smooth the skin, just because I have more textured skin. I do have enlarged pores, and I also have an oily T-zone, so I kind of like to use primers that are smoothing, can fill in the pores, and just kind of even out that texture before going in with foundation. And since this is a drugstore complexion product, I thought it'd be nice to pair it with one of my go-to primers from the drugstore. It's the Milani Conceal and Perfect Blur Out Primer. It is one of those primers, again, that checks off a lot of my boxes as far as smoothing the skin and prepping it very nicely for the foundation that I'm gonna wear that day. Comes with a little spatula, and I just scoop out a little product like so, kind of like a pearl size amount. And I'm going to use my fingers to apply this and just really push this into the areas of concern, which is right in this area here, over the nose, between the eyebrows, the forehead, and the chin. I do have some texture there, dryness. So it is going to be apparent when I don't prime if something is going to cling to those specific spots. Another reason why I chose this Milani Conceal and Perfect Blur Out Primer is because it gives a more mattified look to the skin. It doesn't claim to do mattifying like some other primers that control oil, but when you put this on, you will visually see that it kind of tones down any sort of serums, moisturizers that you have on that can leave a little bit of a glow just naturally because of those types of products. So I like that because it kind of tones that down. Specifically for today, since we're going to be going in with the Lumi Lay Glow Tint from L'Oreal, I'm assuming this is going to have quite a bit of glow to it with a little bit of a tint. As far as coverage, we'll find out how much we're going to get from this. On the back, it says it's a lightweight fluid tint that glows like an illuminator and covers like a foundation. So I feel like it's a lot of those things all into one product. This definitely gives me the IT Cosmetics CC Cream vibe with the packaging. I also like how this packaging is a squeeze tube with a pump. I think it's nice to have pumps, and I think the majority of us probably appreciate that in a product because you can just easily dispense one pump to maybe 1.5 or whatever amount that you personally feel that you need for your skin needs and that day. You can control that and know every time one pump is going to give you a certain amount of coverage, 2 pumps, so on and so forth. And I like that, and I feel like it keeps it from getting messy. So what I'm going to do is actually put a pump of this onto my sponge. And I'm going to use this product on a dry sponge. I feel like sometimes when I use a damp beauty blender or beauty sponge that it actually adds a little bit more moisture to the skin just because of that wetness from the sponge. And with this glowy product, I really don't want to do, if I can get this out, anything that has a bit of glow to it. So it takes a couple pumps to get the product out, but when you first apply it, actually, let me show you on the back of my hand here. I'm gonna do one pump and let you see how quickly that starts to run down the back of my hand. And the shade that I chose is 120. It's described as a neutral shade. Kind of dab this on right over that primer, and then I'm gonna start just stippling my sponge. You could use a brush if you prefer, or your fingers. But like I said, I'm using my sponge dry because sometimes that extra moisture can really add some hydration to the skin, and with a glowy product, I won't know if it's truly the product or that damp sponge. And I also kept my skincare pretty basic as I normally do. Didn't do anything extra, didn't add any extra layers of moisture or any glowy products or primers, just because I want to see truly what this product can do. So that pump that I did on the sponge kind of quickly blended in very fast, and I feel like there are some areas where I want a little bit of coverage. The tone is just a hint warmer than what I prefer. And again, that's not the product's fault. That's just mine from just kind of trying to color match myself online. So I'm going to go into what I had on the back of my hand and try to build up my problem areas, which is my cheek and my chin. So I've built this up pretty nicely here. And I'm also going to take whatever's left on my sponge and just kind of bring this down my neck a little bit. I don't personally like to put makeup on my neck, but sometimes when the foundation is just a hair darker or even just a hair lighter than your actual match, it's a good idea just to bring it down past that jawline, just to kind of make it a little bit more seamless. And my only hope is that this does not oxidize as it sits on my face throughout the rest of the day. But as you can see, that blended in very seamlessly, very quickly. As with anything that has glow to it, if you have textured skin, if you have larger pores, if you have anything that you would want to disguise, just know that anything with glow, anything with radiance or shimmer or a actual visible sparkle is going to highlight those parts that you would want to disguise. So for me, I can tell that this is definitely over time going to accentuate the pore area that I have because I do have larger pores. If I have any dryness, which is right in this sort of zone here on my chin, if I go with more product, I probably can see that this is going to cling to that. But it does look pretty. It makes my skin look nice and fresh. And as I mentioned before, it kind of gives me the CC cream vibes from the IT Cosmetics. They have one that is a more glowy version. The silver one is their matte or original formula. But this also kind of reminds me of a Charlotte Tilbury foundation, the Beautiful Skin foundation, that honestly has a very similar component. And here are the packaging on those two products. So the CC Nude Glow has that very similar packaging as the new one from L'Oreal. Same style of cap, pump, and everything like that. Same thing with the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin foundation. This one is starting to separate a little bit. It's been sitting in my drawer for quite some time, but I've used a lot of this foundation. And this one, the Beautiful Skin from Charlotte Tilbury, gives you that hydrated, that glowy skin with a little bit of coverage. But I don't think that this one from Charlotte Tilbury is as glowy and luminous as the L'Oreal. So I think out of these three, this one has the most luminosity to it where you can see that kind of glow. So I don't think it's going to be a foundation or a complexion-based product for every single skin type. If you have oily skin, you probably won't enjoy this as much, or you just like that glow, then I think you will like this. I think it looks pretty. I think it has a nice sort of healthy glow to the skin. And on the back it says, shake well before use, non-comedogenic. So I feel like there's nothing in here that's going to cause breakouts, which again, it's a bonus. Let me catch you up to speed with a couple steps that I've done off camera. I went ahead and used my Infallible Concealer from L'Oreal. This is one of my absolute favorites. And the shade 330 Ivory is my go-to shade. And I feel like that lightness really helps kind of balance out that slightly more warm, slightly off shade for this Lay Glow tint. So I feel like altogether it's going to work out in the end. I did set that with a loose powder, and I'm doing a little bit of a baking technique. I'm just letting that powder sit, which is why this kind of looks a little powdery and a little bit more on the like a white tint, because I'm using the Huda Beauty Easy Bake Powder and Sugar Cookie, which looks white. But I will dust this away and it won't look white in the end. So now that we've gotten those steps out of the way, while the bake sits for a little while, I want to include a new additional product in today's video, and that is going to be the Milani Stay Put Brow Mousse. It's a tinted brow color, which is why my brows were not done at the start of this demo application for the L'Oreal product. I want to see how much of this I can use to fill in my brows. This is shade number 120. It's made in Italy, as with most products from Milani. It's one of those standard type of smaller applicators, and I will show you what that looks like. You see a lot of these more small little spoolies like this for brow products, and this is the shade number 120. This is a swatch of shade number 120. I ordered mine from the Ulta site and it retails for $13.99, and I just pulled it up on this Ulta app and it only has a 2-star rating with only 2 reviews. So we shall see. I did not read those reviews. I want to kind of formulate my own opinion. What I like to do when I do any sort of tinted brow gel as my main form, I like to take a spoolie and just kind of comb my brows, get them in place, remove any excess powder if I have any from setting my face. And then we're going to go in with the actual product itself. I'm going to wipe off the actual tip of it. So I'm going to start kind of like in the sort of arch area to deposit the most product and work that through the tail end of my brow, just to kind of work off some of that product off of the spoolie. And then there should be a little less product, and that's when I'm going to start working in the inner part of my brow. I'm going to do a flicking motion upwards from the base of my brow and work my way up. And then I'm going to do kind of like a side comb, just because I like them to kind of lay in this sort of motion here. And I'm going to use this as much as possible to fill in my brow. I may have to come in with a brow pen just to do some little spot fill-ins because I personally feel like I need a little extra. And this is kind of where I would stop if I was using just a tinted brow gel. I don't like to overload my brows with too much product. You can see that the shade is a good match. That medium brown is a nice kind of more cool tone type of shade. As you saw earlier in the swatch, it's not overly warm, which I do appreciate. It applied very evenly and nicely. I do feel like I have just ever so slight, like tiny little specks that I probably need to comb off with a clean spoolie and just kind of flick those little bits off. I do feel like there's a little bit of a hold, probably not sufficient for me, but that's just because I like a nice strong hold on my brows. But I do have some visible areas right in through here. I'm not sure how much of that you're gonna see with this camera. I have some spots here that need to be filled in a little bit more. I have a spot here. And then I kind of like to extend the tail end just a bit more when I normally fill in. So I probably need to bring in a brow pen to do those extra spots. But here is the before and after, so you can see nothing just comb through. And then here is that Milani brow product. So I do feel like it's done something. It's not bad, and I think I like this. I think I need to use it a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is bring in one of my classic favorites for the brows. It's the Build-A-Brow from Maybelline. This is a brow pen. I wear the shade Ash Brown in this, and I'm going to use this to kind of spot fill in those little areas that I feel like I need a little bit something. Just a little hint, a little bit of a spot fill in here. And quickly, I want to show you the official before and afters now that I've used the brow pen. To sort of fill this in, I've darkened it just a little bit, again, filling in the brow with this brow pen. Just a couple spots here and right in those areas that I pointed out. And then I also took my spoolie and kind of combed this through, extended the brow just a hint more than what it was just with this Milani brow product. I will be setting the brows with a setting gel after I do my eyeshadow and some other powder products like blush and bronzer. But I wanted you to see a more defined shape to the brow that I personally like to wear. And to be honest, using both of these together, it was quite quick of a process to fill in. I typically use my dip brow from Anastasia Beverly Hills, but these two together really made that process quicker than using a pencil and a pen and then maybe like a brow gel. I feel like I'm able to kind of condense it down. Two products, mostly relying on this initially and then just spot filling in. I do like it. I think I like the process of doing my brows, and I typically don't. I really do not look forward to that part of my routine, and this made it pretty quick. So I'm happy with it, and I'm glad I'm having a positive outcome. So I'll continue testing this out, of course, using it some more, and my first impressions is that this is actually not bad. Since we're using new products in today's video, I thought I'd throw in my eye look for the day just because I am going to be using a new product as well. I have thoroughly enjoyed my Natasha Denona palettes. I'm a sucker for her formula for eyeshadows. I think she does some of the best, and I've often said that she is the best formula that you can buy at Sephora. So when I saw that she came out with a mini eye sculpt palette that looks like this, I definitely had to order this to try it. This looks like something that's just very basic, nothing special and out of the ordinary with the tones, and you'd be right. These are not colors that we've never seen before, but these are just very basic staple shades. And when it comes to her formulas, I really think that they're pretty spectacular. So this, to me, even though the colors seem boring and something we've seen before, her formula is something that is really hard to beat for me. I think she does some incredible formulations, and it's just very simple names on the back. You will see it's like the lightest shade is fair, light, medium, deep, and then black. So these are all basics. If you like single eyeshadows, I've done a couple looks recently, like a one and done or some single shadows. This is a great palette to accompany those. You can use these to create soft looks. You can do something dark, deep, and smoky. When I saw the swatches that she posted on her Instagram, which she often does when she launches a new palette, whether it's a mini or a bigger, larger palette, you will be mesmerized by the swatches and how they look, and it just will make you want to instantly purchase it. So like I said, I'm a sucker, okay? Because I love her formula, and I know this is not going to be an exception. So what I've done already off camera is primed my lids with the MAC Painterly Paint Pot. It's a go-to. I always use that to prime my lids and sort of cancel out any discoloration, redness, or veining that you can see. And now we get to go in with the Mini Sculpt palette. I'm going to start with the lightest shade, which is called Fair, and I'm going to use this to set that paint pot so that I have an easier blend. So I'm just going to take that light fair shade from inner corner to outer corner and all the way up to my brow bone. I'm actually using a BK Beauty 205 brush. It's an angled brush, which is great for crease work and outer V. And I'm just keeping it simple for myself and just keeping my brush use to a minimum and trying to create a look with just a couple brushes. With a BK Beauty 212 brush, which is a crease brush, I'm just going to move right next door to the next shade, just start building some dimension and contour to my eye shape. And I'm going to just take that second shade, which is called Light, and I'm going to work that back and forth. I love her formula. If you haven't tried it, I would suggest picking up one of these sort of smaller scale palettes. These are $27, and you get a feel for the formula and for the brand if you never experienced it before going into the midi palettes, which are $69. And although they're pretty pricey, like I said, her formula cannot be beat. That's my personal opinion, and I'm standing by that. If you go to Sephora, that's going to be the best that you can get for 69 bucks. You can't beat that. I'm going to use that same brush, and I'm going to hop over to the next shade, which is right next door to that one. This one is called Medium, and I'm going to deepen what I've already done with the fair and the light shade. So I'm going to just kind of stamp that in this outer V and then work this into my crease. I'm going to take a crease brush that is clean to just help me blend a little bit more right around the edge of that medium shade. And this would be a great stopping point if you have some single shadows, so shadow sticks. These are the ones from Makeup Forever, the Aqua Resist. These are wonderful. Or if you have the liquid shadows like these are my favorite liquid shadows. These are the Armani Eye Tints. They are just true gems in my collection. You can even do something like this in the crease and what we've done so far and use a glitter shadow. This is a glitter puck from the Half Magic brand, the Dopamine Sparkle, which is the pink. I love that. So what I'm going to do here is pause on application on the upper lids, and I'm going to start working on my lower lashes, and I'm basically going to be layering the same shades, but I'm going to be switching brushes. So I'm going to start with the 207 brush, which is like a pencil brush, and this time I'm going to go into that second shade, which is called Light, and I'm going to apply this from the outer corner, working my way towards the inner corner. So easy, so simple to do, and there is literally no fallout with her eyeshadows, especially her mattes. I'm telling you, they're some of my favorites. Right into this shade here, this is called Medium, same brush, right over that light shade. Then I'm going to go back into that smaller angled brush, that 205 that I used to start, and I'm going to use that to blend those two shades together. I'm not really picking up anything additional. I'm just using that brush to help me blend. And it's the perfect size to fit right underneath the under eye area. And I just wiggle that back and forth. You can even go with your crease brush and use it pointed up towards the ceiling and just kind of rock it back and forth. You don't really have to have a bunch of brushes to do this look. It's really simple and easy to do. And there are a couple shades in this palette that are a little bit deeper. So you have that deep shade, which is a nice warm brown shade, but then you also have that black, which can be used for a smoky eye. I've seen her do some tutorials with that color, and I would want to try that, but I don't think today's the day because I'm not the best at using black to do an intense smoky eye. I like to use that closer to the lash line, which I think that's what I'm going to do. And then I like how she's added the deep shade, which has a touch of warmth to it to really give you a little bit of some kind of neutral shades, some kind of cooler shades, and then a little hint of warmth. So I feel like she's covered all her bases with just these simple 5 shades. There's so much that you can do with this. What I want to do is put something shimmery and really pretty on the lids to add a little bit of sparkle. You can totally do an all matte look if you wanted to with this, and that's certainly one of those things that you can do with any matte palette, just keep it all matte. But I like a little sparkle. I like a little bit of glitter, so I feel like I kind of need to do that. And I know I showed this color recently in a tutorial, but honestly, I said it in that video. This color is going to be on repeat because it is incredibly beautiful. It is the most perfect everyday shade. And along with this palette, it is like the perfect staple products that I could use for every single day. So I feel like I kind of have to do it. So let's just go ahead and apply it. And you may have already guessed it if you've watched my recent videos. It's the Kiko Water Shadow. This is the shade number 200, and it is, like I said, the most perfect everyday shade. I like to use this with my finger to apply it, and I go right in with my finger dry, and you can use this eyeshadow wet. It looks stunning. If you have not seen that video, Let this swatch just speak for itself. It is so beautiful. This is one of the more newer singles in my collection, so that's what I'm going to include in today's video. Plus, I'm kind of obsessed. Like, low-key, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I have not used this so much since I posted that video, because I have on my off time. Again, that finger method to apply, I'm just going to tap from inner corner to outer corner. Now that the lid shade is applied, I do want to add some of the darker shades in this palette from Natasha Denona to create a liner look. I often do this where I use powder for my eyeliners just because it's a little bit softer, but yet it does that defining that I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is take my 204 brush from BK Beauty, which is a nice smudgy brush, and I'm going to go straight into that black shade. So I'm just going to tap right into that pan. I'm also going to tap some of this onto my paper towel that I have down on my desk, and I'm going to just kind of tap and just basically pounce the brush like this into the paper towel to help knock off some of the excess. Then I'm going to take my mirror, and I'm looking down into my mirror, and I'm going to stamp this right at the base of my lashes. And I'm doing this in a layering method where I just add a little bit and then I go back and pick up more product just to intensify the darkness and keep that depth right there at the root of the lash. And this also doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to blend this out. I am switching a brush to a very tiny pencil brush, the 210 from BK Beauty. There's nothing on this brush, but now I'm going to go into that last shade in this palette, which is the deep shade, which is that warm kind of brown shade. I'm going to use this shade to soften and smoke out this black eyeshadow. And again, I'm just patting off any excess off of the brush. And for this, I like to kind of look a little bit more forward into the mirror. And I'm going to rock that brush back and forth to soften that black shade and create a bit of a smokiness without seeing an obvious line of shadow. So this kind of takes a little bit of work to go back and forth, but it doesn't take a lot of time. You just have to be patient with it and do this in tiny little steps. And you can also bring this up into the crease if you wanted to smoke out and create some smokiness on this outer V. You could use that same brush, a tiny pencil brush, or you can switch to a different brush if you want. And sometimes when I do this method, which is kind of often when I use black eyeshadow specifically for liner, I will sometimes go back into that black shade. So I'm going to take that same initial brush, that 204, just dip it a couple times into the black. And then I'm just going to look down into my mirror and just really press it right at the root of the lash. And I can kind of feel it up against my lashes that I'm touching them. So I feel like I am using that as a guide to help me keep that black really close. Just like so. So it creates a smokiness. So think of it as an ombre where it's really dark, rich, and like a black shade at the base of the lashes, and it goes into like a darker smoky brown and then into your shadow for the day. So just kind of work with it a little bit. If you try this technique out, I think you will really enjoy it because it gives you that depth and smokiness without having a lot of black eyeshadow. So now for the lower lashes, I'm going to go back to that 210 that I used to blend out the dark black eyeshadow. I'm going to go back into the shade called Deep, which is the darkest brown, and I'm going to run that really close to the lower lashes just to create a more cohesive look and keep everything more well-rounded. I'm just going to add a little bit of darkness. You could use the black if you wanted a more smoky eye, but I'm going to just stick to this dark brown. Finally, let's do a little bit of a tight lining with an eyeliner. This is the 24/7 Waterline pencil from Urban Decay in the shade Legend, which is a nice dark rich black shade. And then for mascara, I'm going to reach for one of my more newer additions to my collection. It's the Tarte Tubing XL version of the original tubing formula that they had, which is in a purple tube. I have loved that for so long. It's my favorite high-end formula as far as tubing is concerned. And this XL is kind of like a bit of an amped up version of the original. So I'm going to use this to do 2 coats on my top and 1 coat on my bottom lashes. While the mascara dries, I'm going to go back to that eyeshadow palette, and I honestly should have done this before mascara. It's to do a little bit of an inner corner highlight and brow highlight. So I'm going to take that light shade, which is called Fair, and I'm going to use a very small little brush. This is actually a ColourPop E29. Take just a hint of that color right underneath the brow. I'm also going to take that same shade and use that to brighten just a little bit the inner corner. And then that's the finished look for the eyes today. And as I said before, this may look just very simple, kind of boring. We've seen this before, but the formula is so easy and such a pleasure to use. And I never have issues with blending. I never feel like I don't know what I'm doing when I'm using her formula. So I feel like they're so user-friendly, even though they have such intense pigment. And some of these shades, like they honestly just feel like silk. And you have to feel this formula to really know what I'm talking about. And let me just show you, that's the black shade. That is incredibly intense and so pigmented, like just so soft, just a pleasure to use. And I'm happy I bought it, even though I don't really need these types of shades. And this little guy right here, it's a small shadow, but let me tell you, it packs a huge impact. I can't get enough of this. Like, I do want to order some more shades. And when I did the video for this, I linked the actual shadow formula from the Ulta site. And a couple of you were saying that this sort of squared off packaging is the older formula. The newer one has a more rounded kind of look to the packaging, and they've changed the number system. So this is on the back, it says number 200 on mine. I don't know if they're going to change it out and phase it out of Ulta. So if that's the case, then you may want to order this, just because I have not tried the newer formula, so I don't know how it compares, but this is spectacular. Just want to throw that out there. I'm going to link to this one. It was sold out after I posted that video. Shortly after posting it, it did sell out. But I went back and added the link for shade 200 and I believe shade 201, which is kind of similar. Enough with the eye chatter. Let's go ahead and do a blush and a lip combo to kind of pull all this together. I've had these blush duos from Catrice for quite some time, and I have not even tried them. I took the little seal off. It comes with like a little tape, but I ordered these off of Amazon. It's the Blush Affair Cream and Powder palettes, and I have two shades. So this first one is Pleasing Pink, and then the other one is called Peach Passion. And I don't know, I feel like the Peach Passion is kind of drawing me in. Maybe this shade might pair nicely with some of those kind of bronzy tones. And here is a swatch of the peachy color from the Catrice palette. That's the cream, how it looks. The powder is just slightly softer and a little bit more muted, and there's just a hint more brightness. Ignore this. This is the swatch from the Natasha Denona palette. It stained my finger, by the way. But this is the cream that's a little bit brighter, and then this is the powder. So I'm going to start with the cream on the e.l.f. Duo Complexion brush. And I'm going to just kind of stamp this on my cheeks, and I like to apply my blush just a little bit higher up, and a stamping motion I feel like gives me the best blend versus trying to swipe and buff it on. I don't want to lift off any of my foundation and my powder, so I do want to do a light kind of tapping motion. I also did my bronzer as well off camera, and I use my L'Oreal Infallible bronzer, just a little bit of that to add a little bit of warmth, but not too much to make my face darker than my neck and my arms. Since the foundation is just a hint, just a hair darker than I prefer, I wanted to tread softly when it came to the bronzer. So now that that cream is on, that blended out beautifully. That looks so incredibly beautiful. I love that shade. I use the same brush, but I'm going to pick up just a hint of that powder, knocking off the excess onto my paper towel. And again, a stippling motion just to kind of set the cream, not necessarily to intensify the color, because I feel like that color was quite visible on its own, but I want to knock down that kind of creaminess. It's not overly dewy. It doesn't feel sticky. It doesn't feel too slippery, or it doesn't feel suffocating on the skin. It's a really, really nice cream formula, actually. What do you think? I love it. I know most of the products that I'm using today are drugstore, but this specific lip liner isn't, unfortunately. I am sorry. But I do want to try this out. I have not had a chance to actually play with it, and it's the Victoria Beckham Lip Definer in the shade 01. Again, this was one of those products that I had on my vanity that I've been wanting to use. I've been using my Kosas lip liners, some of my other drugstore ones, my Anastasia ones. I did a video showing you all the new products that I bought during that crazy time of the year, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, the time before, the time after that I purchased product, and this was one of those things. So here is that shade 01, and honestly this is quite warm compared to what I thought. I like the creaminess and the glide, the pigmentation. It feels really nice, which I'm glad, because Victoria Beckham is a pricey brand. However, I felt like this color was going to be kind of my lips but better, and it's a little bit more on the warmer side, not necessarily my lips better. I feel like my natural tone has a bit of a rosiness to it. So I feel like this is gonna have to be paired with more warmer kind of nudes and some other shades, but not quite what I was expecting. Not the tone, obviously, that I was going for with this eye look and this blush. I don't think that this is the right shade, but maybe we can kind of change it up a little bit by adding a little bit of a pink color on top, just to kind of play around with it. That's what makeup is about. It's trying different things and playing around. So let me go through my collection and find something with a bit more pink to it to kind of go over this lip liner. I think I'm going to go to this lip product from Revlon. I did review these. These are the new lip balms, the super lustrous ones. They brought them back in that white packaging. This shade specifically is Girly Swirly. It has a little bit of a pink with a touch of like a corally vibe to it. So I'm going to go right over that Victoria Beckham just to kind of add a little bit more color. And that is the Girly Swirly over the Victoria Beckham lip liner. What do you think? I think it definitely made a huge difference, and it made this color a little bit better for me personally. I just feel like maybe it was shade number 2 that I was meaning to order and I ordered the wrong shade. I don't know what I was thinking, but I do like the formula. I just wish the color was just a little bit more on the pink side, a little bit more cooler. And I think that the overall look, I don't know, you tell me, I think it looks pretty good. I like the end result. I like that kind of freshness and that glow from the skin, and I think it's just that L'Oreal skin tint. I do enjoy it, but overall, I'm very happy with everything that I tried today. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that it was fun to sit down and spend some time with me today, and I appreciate you and your time being here with me. The description box is going to have everything listed and linked for you down below. Don't forget to subscribe. I post every Tuesday and every Friday. You can also follow me on Instagram. I do post there periodically. That's where I post when videos go live, so you'll be the first to know if you follow me there. My username usually pops up here on the screen. Take care, you guys, and I will catch you very soon. Bye-bye.